Hi and hello. I hope all is well with you wherever you are in the world today, and welcome. I wanted to talk about this book I got for Christmas. I was really excited to receive it, and I've already skimmed through some of the pages and read a little bit of it. It's called Etched in Stone: Decoding Hidden Meanings in Cemeteries by Gina Black. Now, I'm a big fan of movies and television shows, series, and so on. Many people are. That's not like it's any kind of surprise, I'm sure. But I get a lot of enjoyment out of sort of interpreting the meanings of different symbols of those shows, attempting to interpret the story overall in an interesting way that I don't think other people are seeing the story as. And a way that you can do this is by seeing symbols in the movies or in the paintings or whatever piece of art, the words chosen in a poem or in a song, by just picking out the words that you find particularly interesting, what you think the artist is putting an emphasis on, and drawing out the deeper meanings of those words and the symbols of them. And a way that you can do this is by looking up the meanings of things from a dream perspective. And when I watch a movie, what I'll do is I will envision it as a dream. I'm having a dream, and the movie experience is the dream. And so whenever there's a symbol in the movie, I can just look at that and type it into Google search engine. What is the meaning of this in a dream I had? And you will often get many different ideas of what that could mean, but usually there will be a popular consensus. And from that, you can extrapolate more meaning and possibly touch better on what the artist is attempting to convey in the story itself. Now, the thing I think about when I go to a cemetery is that every gravestone there lays to rest a human being, someone who has lived, whether it be someone who did not live long or lived long, someone who died for whatever reason, they have passed away, but their lives is a story with many chapters and trials and tribulations and lots of wisdom. I respect the dead. Usually, when you walk through a cemetery, you don't know anything about the people who lay to rest there. However, you can learn more very easily. I recently, oh, maybe not recently, but some months back, I went to Lone Fir Cemetery, took the guided tour there in Portland, Oregon, and learned a lot about the different historical figures that are laid to rest in that cemetery. Their gravestones stand and are very beautiful to look at. There are many empty graves there, in fact, with gravestones that will remain for historical purposes, but you can still learn the story of the people who passed away and were usually initially laid to rest there and moved on to other places. For instance, there's a very large Celtic cross on display in the Lone Fir Cemetery, of which the sisters that were originally buried there were moved to another cemetery when their eldest sister, moved them to lay to rest with the rest of their family. They have a very controversial life story, but I won't get into that. It's still a very fascinating story, and I would recommend checking it out. But the thing I wanted to bring up about this book in particular is because I use books like this and books about interpreting dreams or the Google search engine to research these things for helping me investigate the deeper meanings of symbols and paintings, poetry, movies, and other forms of art. And that's where I get most of my enjoyment from movies. Usually there's the thrill of the experience in the movie itself, and then there's the added benefit of me taking the time to research what I think is the possible interpretation that I take away from the movie. And I attempt to, oftentimes, just this is what I think it is, and I try my best to make it interesting and unique, although sometimes you can't make it unique because it's just hitting you in the face with its meaning that everybody in the world can see what they're trying to convey. It's a little too forward. But other than that, that for me is a lot of source of joy in experiencing a movie. Everybody has their own way of enjoying a movie. Some people just turn them off and they're done with it. They don't think about it anymore, and that's fine. Nothing wrong with that. But for me, I just appreciate art in a different sort of way. And for me, I love going to the Portland Art Museum, looking at the paintings, taking a special interest in the ones I like the most, and then looking at them, seeing the symbols on display in the painting, and decoding, as the book puts it, the hidden meanings of the symbols in the paintings. The same is true for gravestones. Now, in each instance in this book, they will the author here, Gina Black, they will attempt to convey the hidden meanings of the symbols on tombstones, obelisks, mausoleums, or even just the way you decorate the cemetery itself. Getting into, even in the first chapter, talking about the black gates that are often seen going around a cemetery. A lot of times this is stuff that I never really took into consideration, although I knew that the history of this is prevalent. But a lot of the black gates have curved overlapping hangings with the spikes going inward to prevent grave robbers. Now, obviously, that's not an issue that many people have to deal with these days, but it was very prevalent. In fact, if I'm not mistaken, Alexander Hamilton was at a hospital where many of the doctors of this hospital were accused by the villagers or the people of the town of robbing graves for the sake of science. They were taking the cadavers and using them for experiments or research purposes or whatever it is that doctors do with cadavers. And there's a whole other issue of this, because doctors tend to be better paid people, higher in society people, and the graves they were robbing are usually on the lower rungs of society. So a lot of the poorest people in these towns were victims of their family members' graves being robbed and their cadavers being what I would consider to be I don't know, abuse of a corpse. It's very unethical to do this, but now you can voluntarily give your body to science for the sake of science, and doctors have, I do believe, enough now because it's been popularized. A lot of people will do this, but back in those ye olden times, there was a whole riot outside of this hospital, as I recall, and Alexander Hamilton had to he had to calm the riot down. Otherwise, they were actually going to do serious harm, if not kill, the doctors inside the building for doing this heinous act of stealing bodies from graves. Anyways, so the book does get into, it just touches on, it doesn't get into these deeper stories like the one I just talked about with Alexander Hamilton. That's just something I picked up from a book some time ago, but it does tell you, like, the gates are curved inward to prevent grave robbers. And I find that very fascinating. I never really noticed that. So, interestingly, most of the cemeteries I've seen, aside from the more historical ones, like in Portland, like Lone Fir Cemetery, they're usually chain link fenced. And there's usually like that green hatch pattern that's interwoven through the links for, I'm assuming, privacy reasons. I really don't know why they have to be green. There's possibly another reason for that. I don't know, but usually it's just a chain link fence. Although there will be an entrance with a gate, and it will be black, to, I suppose, respect the mood of the area that is within the gates. Okay, so when I am watching a movie or looking at a painting, I imagine myself in a dream, and fascinatingly, when I'm coming out of a dream, when I wake up in the morning, I start brushing my teeth, I'll usually have the whole dream in my mind. And in the moment of me attempting to remember the dream, I'm actually experiencing the sensation of forgetting the dream as I'm remembering it. And I find that to be a very weird thing. There's not very many times where I actually have the full memory in my mind's eye, and then I'm actually watching, experiencing it evaporating in my mind as I'm recalling it. It's a very strange sensation. It's different than like, oh, where did I leave my keys last? I can't remember where I left my keys. That's a different sort of forgetting. That's like, I actually don't remember where I put the keys. In this case, I'm actually remembering, and as I'm experiencing the memory, it's vanishing in my mind. It's a strange sensation. Um, I always notice it every time I do it. But yeah, so dreams are interesting because you can get a lot of meanings from dreams. Many people think that dreams are your own subconscious experiences attempting to tell you something that's happening to your life. There's something that you need to be uh, noticing that you aren't taking notice of. So a dream is a way to remind you to think about these sorts of things and perhaps um, tackle these issues that your subconscious is attempting to let you know about. So a lot of people think that. Now, I don't take, for me, I don't take that much away from dreams. I just think they're things your mind does while you're sleeping. I don't put too much thought into the meanings of them, although I do know that a lot of people have put meanings behind the symbols of dreams. So, a way that you can get what symbols in movies are, or paintings are, or poetry are, is by just typing in what is the symbolism of this in my dream, and you will see it. Similarly to that, there's this book which explains what symbols are on various tombstones, mausoleums, and things of that nature. So I already picked out a chapter where it discusses flowers. Now, flowers are very popular in paintings. They convey all kinds of different meanings. But there's the same is true for movies. You know, I think of the American Beauty with the rose petals falling down. I'm sure those rose petals represent something. It wasn't by random happenstance that the person just decided it would be cool if we put rose petals floating down to this person as she lay naked in this vision that the guy is having in this movie. It's not random that he chose rose petals. There is a meaning for this. There is a symbolic meaning of the rose petals of that scene. It's a very, like, this is a thing happening in the story. There's a lot of things happening in that scene. So just to sort of unlock the deeper meaning of it, you could figure out, well, she's laying in a bed of rose petals. Obviously, this is to suggest a lot of there's sexuality happening there, intense romance, if you will, and seduction, perhaps. So, anyways, that's just me thinking off the top of my mind. There's tons of other scenes with movies and flowers. I'm sure that's just the first one that comes to mind. But, anyways, I recently read a manga from mangas from Japan's comic book, which had a lot to do with hydrangea. So I actually picked out this section of the book where the author talks about the meanings of hydrangea. And I already read it over, and it's just so fascinating just because after having read that manga with a lot to do with hydrangea, I can already see there are clues that will help me unlock the deeper meanings of that story just from this one little snippet here. So let's get into it. Hydrangea, which interestingly is a poisonous flower. Well, let's get into this here. This colorfully lush flower is known for voluminous clusters of delicate petals that create a visually outstanding cloud-like effect. The hydrangea has bunches of tiny clusters of petals. The colors vary and often range from blends of blue, white, pink, purple, and sometimes green. The earliest records of hydrangeas exist in fossil forms dating back approximately 40 to 65 million years ago in North America. Native Americans utilized the flower for medicinal purposes mainly. They were also used in ceremonies and for natural dyes. The Japanese cultivated the hydrangea secretly for many centuries. They were important components used in tea ceremonies. The flowers were eventually brought to Europe in the late 1700s and quickly gained widespread popularity. It should be no surprise that such an enchanting flower made its way into cemetery landscapes across the world. Depending on the cultural background of the deceased, there may be some unique hidden meanings for the hydrangea. In Japan, the hydrangea represents a deep emotional connection, love, and relationships. In Korea, the flower represents perseverance and resilience. In most European countries and the United States, Victorians used the flower to represent understanding, gratitude, heartfelt emotions, and in some cases, an apology offered posthumous. 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 I don't know if that's the word. I can't say it. Anyways, it doesn't matter. I think you get the point. The hydrangea. So the manga that I read, being from Japan, was a romance, right? And so I just found it interesting that the author already noted that it represents, according to the Japanese people, a deep romantic connection and love. Um, and so there you have it, right? It's not a mistake that they chose the hydrangea as the flower of choice in the particular manga that I read. So I guess I shouldn't be surprised. Anyways, I only wanted to bring it up because I am very interested in reading this book, and I really wanted to share with you a way that you can help yourself better interpret art and understand what the artist is attempting to convey. Now, obviously, interpretation is, like they say, beauty in the eye of the beholder. It's whatever you think. It's your experience. But usually there is an intention behind the scenes taking place in a movie or in a piece of art that the artist would like to have you take away from it. And so this will help you have better experiences with art and movies and the like. So, with that said, I bid you adieu. Thank you very much for watching, and I appreciate your time. If you like this type of content, please like and subscribe and share with your friends. With that said,